Disclaimer. This is the perspective of an individual. I do make generalizations. Ensuring that there are none would be a serious pain. I claim to be an agnostic, which is a bias in this paper. There are bound to be errors in my actual thoughts, in the expressions of my thoughts, and in the interpretations of my words. Your interpretations of what I am writing may have no bearing on what I actually think. Use this paper for thought food, not to believe that you know what I think. To obtain a high level of certainty that your interpretation of my words is accurate would require you to talk to me. Introduction of purpose and some definitions. People make knowledge claims. First, I'll try to define knowledge. I think that the word knowledge is used to describe the level of certainty an individual has for the accuracy of an interpretation of observations. So a knowledge claim is a claim that one makes about the level of certainty that the declarer has for a declaration. Individuals have different levels of sureness that they require to think that they know something. Some people need a little evidence. Some people need no contrary evidence as well as supporting evidence. What then is belief? To me, belief is acceptance of an interpretation of observations regardless of certainty. Belief and knowledge are not exclusive. Most people believe what they know, and know things that they believe. An example of how belief can be different from knowledge is as follows. One may know that a loved one has died, but he or she may not believe it. In short, one may recognize and accept that the interpretation of observations indicate death, but that one may still find that belief for the interpretation is absent. In my mind, it is important to note that knowing and believing have no impact on the accuracy of the interpretation. Both knowing and believing are human functions relative to the individual. Why does it matter what knowledge is? That's a question the answer of which is dependent on the individual. For example, to a carpenter, an IDE, used to write programs, would be useless, just as a table saw would be useless for a programmer. Information is similar to tools. Some people find uses for some information, and others do not find the use for the same information. However, it is interesting to note that since most people are in contact with others, they are a part of their since others are a part of their environment, the actions of others affect them. The carpenter affects the programmer and vice versa. The scientists who develop weapons affect farmers and vice versa. So, also, the information that people have and how they use it will affect others, whether it's useful to those affected or not. My perspective on how knowledge and knowledge claims are used. How do most people think of knowledge? Most people seem to think of knowledge in a dynamic manner. Sometimes they think knowledge is certain. Sometimes it's just an opinion. Most people think of knowledge in whatever way best supports their own perspectives at the time. When they want it to be certain, they think of knowledge as certain observations. When they want it to be opinion, they think of knowledge as unreliable. Oftentimes you will find that those who claim that knowledge is not certain, a few words later will act as if it is certain. I do not think that all knowledge claims are valid. Certainty as a scale of measure. If certainty was a scale, 0 to 100, most people would claim somewhere below 100 and higher than 0 when they make a knowledge claim. However, there are those who claim the extremes as well. Most of the time when people make a claim, they have at least some certainty in it, and most of the time people recognize that there is the probability that they could be totally in error. Most of the time when people make a claim, they have at least some certainty in it, and most of the time people recognize that there is the probability that they could be totally in error. Absolute certainty, 100% certainty. Some people believe that humans have absolute knowledge. These people are called Gnostics. There are also those who do not believe that humans have absolute knowledge. These people are called agnostics. These two camps clearly are in dispute. I would like to address one such dispute from my perspective. Agnostics often are quoted as claiming, "People do not have knowledge," or "I do not know anything." Critics are quick to point out several perceived problems with this claim. I would like to address one of those. Critic: you are claiming that you know nothing, or that you do not know anything. This is a self-defeating claim. My response to this criticism: you are correct to raise this concern. However, there is confusion about the word knowledge, about how the word knowledge is being used, and about the nature of the claim I'm making. People who make this claim that knowledge is not something that people have are referring to a specific type of knowledge. They are referring to a knowledge which is totally certain. When one knows something, it is just a way of stating that the individual has a level of certainty about the interpretation. Agnostics, those who make the claim that they do not know things, are stating that they observe that certain, absolute, knowledge is not something that humans have. They're not claiming to have certain knowledge that this is true, but rather claiming that this is their belief and observation. Oftentimes, there is a level of certainty that goes with the claim. However, some people do believe the claim regardless of thought-out logic. Agnostics are not claiming that there is no scale of certainty with regard to interpretation of data, but rather that humans do not have 100% certainty. At this point, I realized that I missed a part of the description of absolute knowledge. It is not just certainty, which everyone has at times, especially insane people. Absolute knowledge must be 100% accurate and must be 100% understood by the declarer. The part of this which is problematic is that humans have no way to verify that a claim is 100% correct because we have no way of fully observing our reality, let alone ourselves. Also, for one to understand something 100% would require them to understand all of reality 100%. This also is not something that I believe humans have ever done. Another way to defend agnosticism. The claim that humans cannot fly. Some claim that humans cannot fly. Why? That is their interpretation of the information at their disposal. Some claim that humans cannot run at the speed of light. Why? They also are claiming it because of the information at their disposal. Some claim that eggs help with cholesterol. Some claim the opposite. Why? It's for the same reason as the previous two reasons. The interpretation of information at their disposal has led them to those conclusions. At one time, people claimed that humans could not run as fast as they do now. Why? Because that was their interpretation of the information at their disposal. So then, what are people claiming? Some of them are just saying that they believe the claim. In short, they're not certain, but it's what they accept. Others are saying that they have certainty that this claim is true based on the information that they have. Both claims are about function. Do humans have the function of flight? Does the run function reach a limit at x? In the same way, agnostics make a claim about the function of absolute knowledge. Some believe that it is not a human function, while others claim, but by that I mean that some believe it, they don't know it. They don't make a claim to know it. While others claim that claim with some degree of certainty that it is not a human function. They make a knowledge claim. Unless there is a human who has absolute knowledge, all the people who make these claims, whether it's about knowledge, cholesterol, eggs and cholesterol that is, light, speed of light running, flying, all of these claims are made from a non-absolute knowledge. They're all non-absolute knowledge claims. If there's a person with absolute knowledge, I'm unable to imagine a way that such absolute knowledge could be transmitted to others, since knowledge itself is relative to the individual. Agnostics do not claim that they possess absolute knowledge of no thing, but rather they claim they do not have the function of absolute knowledge. It's not an absolute claim, but rather a normal knowledge claim or belief claim, just as any other claim. How do I believe these observations should affect humans? Since people make claims to absolute knowledge, some people make claims to absolute knowledge. I personally run into these people most often as atheists who believe science can answer everything, and as religious individuals who believe that they have obtained absolute knowledge through whatever means their religion dictates that they've gained it. I believe that all people should realize that if absolute knowledge claims should not be made, then reasoning and debate should be used when trying to discuss knowledge claims. That said, just because an individual's logic is sound to him or her, or even to 99% of the population, does not make it absolutely correct. Differences in knowledge should not merit hatred, in my opinion. However, it is important to recognize that some differences result in actions, and each person has to decide what actions they believe are acceptable. but that is a matter of might makes right. For example, regardless of the fact that a murderer could possibly be correct in believing that he or she can kill me, I will still defend myself. As a corollary, regardless of how much I think I should not be killed, someone else may think I should be. I'm not advocating that people do not care, or that people should not care about anything, or that all differences should be allowed, but rather that people should be allowed more freedom to disagree when there are no consequences. Individuals and societies must decide for themselves what they'll allow, but I advocate acceptance of beliefs which do not result in coercive action. Also, I believe that people should use this realization that they are not absolutely correct to remain open to new information. However, that is just my preference.